Hey, if you've been dealing with shoulder pain in the front of the shoulder during or after workouts and you want to know how to fix it, then this video is for you. My name is Dr. Andy Johnson, Doctor of Physical Therapy in Ooltewah, Tennessee. Check this video out. Before we continue, I want to remind you that as much as I love making these videos for you to help fix problems that you're dealing with, what we love more is to get to work with you one-on-one to help solve your problem and getting back to doing what you love to do most. So if you want to learn more or would like to work with us one-on-one, check out the description, click the link in there, and you can book a free discovery call to see if we are the right fit for you. So a common complaint we get from our athletes and clients here in the office is pain in the front of the shoulder. These clients typically complain of pain with push-ups, bench press, or pressing overhead. The tough thing is the athlete doesn't know really what's going on, and even worse, they have no idea how to fix it. So before we go any further, let's talk about what causes anterior or front of the shoulder pain, then we'll talk about how to fix it. So the most common cause is a generic term we're going to call shoulder impingement. Now, I'm not going to get into the details and the science of what exactly is happening in shoulder impingement. That is maybe for another video, but however, what you need to know is this. We have structures into the shoulder, and when we get in positions pressing overhead, that space where those structures are can get smaller and smaller. And sometimes we can create some pinching and irritation on those structures. That could be rotator cuff tendons, that could be bicep tendon structures, that can be other nerves running through that area, and they're getting pinched or irritated. This pain can also occur if muscles in the back of the shoulder are weak, causing the head of the shoulder or the glenohumeral head to slide forward, and then the same results happen as causing irritation on the structures in the front of the shoulder. But for you guys, the important question is this: how can we fix it? The best answer is to really connect with a doctor of physical therapy who understands your activity or sport and gets a full evaluation so you can get some manual treatment and some progressive exercise under guidance. Now, that being said, in this video, I'm going to provide a progression and a few exercises that are hopefully really going to help you out and get that shoulder feeling much better so you can get back into the gym as soon as possible. So let's go through 3 steps that are going to help you out. Step number 1 is to stretch the tight structures that are causing the problem. What you need to do is try these 3 stretches first. The banded bully. So the goal of this exercise is to get some stretch on the front or anterior aspect of the shoulder. You need a band and somewhere up high to hook it. Arm is going to go through the band up to the crease of the elbow. We're going to step out so there's some tension, so it's tractioning my shoulder back that way. And I'm going to grab that hand behind my back, and I'm going to allow that band to pull me back that direction towards where the band is coming from. Hold that stretch a few seconds, back it off, reset, repeat. So I'm working in and out of that stretch. I recommend with those 5-second holds, you'll probably do 10 to 15 reps. Bring it out for a break, and then repeat as needed. All right, next is the overhead lat stretch, utilizing a stick in a weight bench or a box. The goal here is to stretch out these big muscles here. So you should feel a stretch there. You may also feel it in the mid to upper back. We don't want pain in the front of the shoulder. So you're gonna grab the stick, palms facing up, elbows on the bench. Hands will go behind the head. I'm gonna push my rear end towards the heels. Now here's where the magic happens. I don't want to be arched in the pelvis and low back here. In fact, we're going to press that spine towards the ceiling just a little bit. So we have that little bit of curvature. If I have any range of motion left, I'm pushing that chest towards the floor and holding. You're gonna hold it for 30 seconds. Again, the goal is you should feel a stretch through this system here. Once you held it for 30 seconds, come out, give it a break, do at least 3 rounds. So in some of my shoulder pain clients, a lot of them deal with pain and overactivation in the upper trap. And so when we're overactive there, it changes how that shoulder blade functions and moves. And again, we can eventually cause some irritation in front of the shoulder. So here's a fun little exercise using a lacrosse ball to help you try to loosen up that upper trap muscle. So I'm gonna lay it on my back. We're gonna take that ball and we're gonna put it right there at the upper trap muscle. I should already feel it pressing in or digging into it a little bit. And again, the most important piece here is we're gonna bridge up so now my pressure is pushing into that ball. And then the magical part here is I'm gonna raise that arm until I feel some pretty strong pressure. Pause a few seconds, back it off, reset, repeat. Again, bridge up, reaching overhead. You should feel that strong pressure into the upper trap. I recommend 10 to 15 reps and then see if that loosens up the upper trap muscle. Okay, now that we've gone over the stretches that we need to do to lengthen some tissue out, now we need to strengthen the posterior muscles of the shoulder that help control and stabilize your shoulder blade. Let's give these exercises a try. Let's talk about A's, Y's, and T's. Here's how we can strengthen the muscles that control the shoulder blade so it's moving how it's supposed to and we have complete control over them. So my favorite is the A's, Y's, and T's. You just need a space on the floor to lay down. First one is the A's, then the T's, then the Y's. A's first, a squeeze shoulder blades together, lift and hold. Coming to the T's, again, squeeze shoulder blades together. Always like to tell people, pretend there's an orange between your shoulder blades and you're trying to squeeze the juice out of it. Good, and then the Y's. Same thing, I'm trying to squeeze those shoulder blades together and slightly down and back on the Y's. I like 1 minute holds for each one. If that becomes easy, guess what? You get to load it. Same concept, I got 2.5 pound plates and you go through that same process. Squeeze, lift, and hold. Squeeze, lift, and hold, etc. Really working hard with those muscles between the shoulder blades, trying to squeeze them together and stabilize. I recommend 1 minute hold of each. If that becomes easy and you can do that, then you start loading with light 2.5 pound plates. Okay, this next exercise I call Serratus anterior wall slides. And this just might be my favorite shoulder exercise when rehabbing a shoulder injury. So if I'm working the right shoulder, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a resistance band. I'm gonna wrap it around my left elbow. And then I'm going to have the other part just wrapped in my hand here. I'm going to come up against the wall. And so what you want to do here first is we want to make sure we activate that external rotation of the shoulder. So I'm going to drive that out. I'm going to actively push the wall away from me just a little bit, and then I'm sliding that arm up the wall as far as I can without the elbow coming off the wall. Control it back down, reset, repeat. So I'm going to actively external rotate, push the wall away, slide that arm up the wall as far as I can until the elbow starts to come off. Slide it back down, reset, repeat. We're going to try to get about 5 to 8 reps and get 2 to 3 rounds. And finally, the third step is to start strengthening the rotator cuff muscles in the shoulder joint itself. Let's go through a few that to me are the most important to really start strengthening to help get that shoulder strong again. Okay, so now we want to talk about strengthening the posterior rotator cuff muscle. So the guy that's responsible for this rotation, most specifically the infraspinatus. The best exercise for that, and the EMG studies continue to say it's the most active with this one, is sidelying external rotation with some load. So this is a boring exercise for some people, but it's very effective, especially when we're dealing with pain. So the setup is towel roll underneath the arm, and I'm holding the dumbbell on my side. Start position is here. We're going to rotate up past parallel to in position, control it back down. So we're working the external rotation strength, utilizing those rotator cuff muscles. If the weight's too easy, I'm starting with 5 pounds here. You can slowly progress that load, 10, sometimes even 15 pounds for a lot of people. I recommend 10 to 12 reps, give it a break, get at least 3 rounds. If that's too easy, of course, go up in your load and get that rotator cuff stronger. So finally, I like to take the exercise movement that has been painful and use a band to make those rotator cuffs be super active during that movement. For example, let's say you had front of the shoulder pain with dumbbell bench press. So I'm going to utilize this band in the dumbbell bench press motion to help keep their rotator cuff turned on. So I'm going to have the band here. I'm going to be active there as I'm pressing. So I'm going to demonstrate here. So laying on my back, instead of just doing a regular dumbbell press, I'm going to actively press into that band so the rotator cuffs are turned on. Same muscle group as the last exercise, but then I must stay active pressing it into the band as I press overhead, as I control it back down. So now we're forcing those rotator cuffs to stabilize the shoulder joint and hopefully keep some pressure off of those structures on the anterior shoulder. On the same token, if the painful exercise for the front of the shoulder was pressing overhead, I can do the same thing with the band. So I'm still going to be active, turning the rotator cuff on as I press overhead with the dumbbells. So I'm going to be active, pressing into the band, keep tension on the band as I press overhead, keep tension on the band as I'm controlling it back down. And I can almost promise you it won't take but a few reps and you will really feel the shoulder muscles and rotator cuff burning. Ideally, you want it to be pain-free. So the idea is I can control, get that muscle turned on using the band, and as I press, I'm avoiding pain in the anterior shoulder. So if you plan to follow this protocol to start helping your shoulder pain, I highly suggest you really stick with this for a 6 to 8 week period, keeping in mind that in the exercises, you may slowly progress the amount of resistance and reps over time. However, in order for it to be effective, we need to stay consistent over a 6 to 8 week period, trying to implement these ideas at least 3 times a week. One important note, this is for you a shotgun approach. You have not been evaluated. I have not been able to check it out and do some testing for you. So keep in mind this is not necessarily work for everybody, but this is going to work for most people and you should start to see some really good improvements. So implement this protocol and then start getting back out there in the gym to do the workouts that you love and see if you see that shoulder pain go away. Once again, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you don't mind or if you have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments below and check out the description. There's links and you can click on other videos to watch. See you next time.